The great hall of the Galactic Council buzzed with the usual chatter of 100 different alien species. Ambassador Kate Hughes sat quietly in the small section reserved for Earth's delegation, her hands folded neatly on the polished table. Around her, massive creatures from distant worlds discussed trade routes and territorial disputes with the casual air of beings who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. "The human question comes up again today," rumbled Councillor Vexitar, his 6 eyes focusing on Kate with what might have been amusement. The Zephyrian leader's scales shifted from blue to purple as he spoke. "Their little ships keep wandering into our space." Kate smiled politely and stood up when the council speaker gestured toward her. "Honored councillors," she began, her voice carrying the practiced tone of someone who had given this speech many times before. "Earth apologizes for any inconvenience. Our exploration vessels sometimes drift off course. We are still learning to navigate the vast distances between stars." A sound that might have been laughter came from the Corvani section. Their ambassador, a tall being with silver skin and 4 arms, shook his head. 200 years in space, and still getting lost. How charmingly primitive, Kate nodded humbly. "We do our best with what we have. Perhaps the council might consider sharing some navigation technology. We would be happy to trade our medical supplies or farming equipment." "Medical supplies," snorted another counselor. "Herbs and simple chemistry. Your people still use metal tools for surgery." The discussion continued for another hour, with various aliens making jokes about human limitations. Kate endured it all with patience, occasionally asking innocent questions about alien technology or offering small gifts of Earth's primitive crafts. When the session ended, she gathered her simple cloth bag and walked slowly from the hall, looking every bit the representative of a backward world trying to fit in with superior beings. What none of them knew was that 3 billion miles away, in the cold darkness beyond Neptune, Admiral Jake Morrison watched the live feed of the council meeting with grim satisfaction. He stood on the command deck of New Horizon, a vessel so large that its gravity generators created their own weather patterns in the residential sections. The ship stretched for thousands of miles in every direction, its hull disguised to look like a collection of mining asteroids to any casual observer. "She's doing well," said Dr. Lisa Grant, approaching the Admiral with a data pad in her hands. "The Zephyrians still think our fastest ships can barely reach half-light speed." Jake nodded, his eyes never leaving the screen where Kate was bowing, politely to alien counselors who treated her like a child. "Good. How are the preparations going?" "Terra's hammer finished its weapons tests yesterday. Liberty's Edge is still installing the new shield generators, but they should be ready within the week." Lisa paused, looking at the readings on her pad. "Jake, are you sure about this? Once we show them what we really are, there's no going back." The Kiao. Admiral turned from the screen and looked out through the massive viewport. In the distance, he could see the running lights of construction crews working on the hull of Terra's hammer. The ship was even larger than New Horizon, its weapons systems, capable of cracking planets if needed. Liberty's Edge hung in space beyond them both, its sleek form bristling with technology that would make the greatest alien scientists weep with envy. "We've been preparing for this day for 150 years, Jake said quietly. "Ever, since we learned what this galaxy really is. The strong take what they want and the weak serve or die. They think we're weak." "We let them think that," Lisa reminded him. "Every treaty, every trade agreement, every time we bowed our heads and accepted their scraps. It was all part of the plan." Jake smiled, but there was no humor in it. "And now, the Zephyrians want to add human space to their empire. They think it will be as easy as filing paperwork." On the screen, Kate was leaving the council building, surrounded by tall alien guards who escorted her like they were doing her a favor. She would return to her small ship, the kind of vessel that any alien child could build, and fly back to Earth to report on the council's decisions. The aliens would pat themselves on the back for being so generous to the poor, simple humans. None of them suspected that Kate's primitive ship carried communication equipment that could reach across the galaxy in seconds. None of them knew that every word spoken in the council chambers was being recorded and analyzed by computers, that could think faster than any alien mind. And none of them had any idea that the 3 largest warships ever built were waiting in the darkness of Earth's outer system. "The Zephyrian fleet is moving," reported Captain Ben Clark from his position at the communications console. Ben commanded Earth's official fleet, the small collection of ships that the aliens were allowed to see. "Intelligence says they'll reach Earth space in 6 days. Let them come," Jake said. "Send word to all stations. It's time to stop pretending." Dr. Lisa Grant looked up from her datapad. "The evacuation of Earth's civilian population is nearly complete. Most of them are already aboard the 3 ships. The ones who stayed behind are volunteers who understand the risks. And the deception systems? Ready to go offline on your command. The moment we drop our disguises, every sensor in the galaxy will detect us. There won't be any hiding after that." Jake nodded and turned back to the viewport. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were preparing to divide up human territory like pieces of a pie. They had done it before to other species, and they expected to do it again. The galaxy was full of the bones of civilizations that had been too weak to defend themselves, but humanity had learned from those bones. They had studied every battle, every conquest, every moment when the strong had crushed the weak. And they had spent 2 centuries preparing for the day when the galaxy would learn what humans could really do when they stopped pretending to be harmless. Commander Alex Stone walked through the corridors of New Horizon, his boots echoing in the vast hallways that stretched as far as the eye could see. The ship was so large that it took him 20 minutes to travel from his quarters to the command center, even using the high-speed transport tubes. Along the way, he passed parks with real trees, shopping districts where families live normal lives, and manufacturing plants that could build entire fleets of smaller ships. This was not the kind of vessel that the galaxy expected humans to possess. The aliens thought Earth's biggest ships were barely larger than their shuttles. They had no idea that New Horizon alone was bigger than most of their space stations. "Commander Stone to the bridge," came Lieutenant Maya Foster's voice over the communication system. "We're ready for the final weapons test." Alex quickened his pace. The weapons test was the last step before New Horizon would be declared fully operational. After today, humanity would have 3 planet-sized battleships ready for whatever the galaxy might throw at them. The bridge of New Horizon was a marvel of human engineering. Dozens of officers worked at stations that could control systems across the massive ship. Holographic displays showed views of space in every direction, while computer screens tracked thousands of different functions happening throughout the vessel. "Report," Alex said as he took his position in the command chair. Lieutenant Maya Foster looked up from her weapons console. "All systems are green, sir. We've got clear space in Sector 7 for the test. No asteroids, no ships, nothing but empty space for 1,000 miles in every direction." "Good. What's our target?" "We built a mock asteroid about the size of a small moon. It's got the same composition as the rocks the Zephyrians use for their battle stations." Maya's fingers danced across her controls. "If this works, we'll know. Our weapons can punch through anything they have." Alex nodded and turned to Engineer Tom Bradley, who was monitoring the ship's power systems. "How are we looking on energy?" "Perfect, sir. The new fusion cores are running at full capacity. We could fire every weapon on the ship at the same time and still have power left over." Tom grinned. "The aliens think we're still using chemical rockets. They have no idea we cracked cold fusion 60 years ago." The irony was not lost on Alex. While the galaxy's greatest scientists struggled with basic energy problems, human engineers had been quietly revolutionizing physics. The breakthrough had come from studying captured alien technology, but humanity had improved on it in ways that would shock their former teachers. "Intelligence Officer Sam Rivers to the bridge," came another voice over the communication system. Sam. Rivers arrived a few minutes later, carrying a stack of data pads. He was responsible for maintaining the deception that had kept humanity's true capabilities hidden for so long. His job was to make sure that every piece of information the aliens received about Earth made humans look weak and harmless. "The Zephyrian fleet is still moving toward Earth," Sam reported. "They're taking their time because they think there's no hurry. Our fake intelligence reports show that Earth's defenses consist of about 50 small ships and some orbital platforms with basic weapons. How many ships do they actually have? Alex asked. 3,000 warships, including their flagship dreadnought. It's the size of a small city. Sam paused. Of course, their biggest ship is still smaller than one of our weapon turrets. The comparison was almost funny. The Zephyrian dreadnought was considered the most powerful warship in the galaxy. It could destroy entire fleets and had conquered dozens of worlds, but it would look like a toy next to New Horizon. Commander, Maya called out, "We're in position for the weapons test." Alex looked at the main screen, which showed their target floating in space. The artificial asteroid was about 50 miles across, big enough to serve as a proper test for their weapons. If they could destroy something that size, they could handle anything the aliens might bring to the fight. All stations, prepare for weapons test. This is not a drill. Alex's voice carried throughout the ship. Engineering, give me full power to the main guns. Full power ready, sir, Tom reported. Maya, target the center of the asteroid. Use the Mark 7 plasma cannon. Target locked, sir. Weapon charged and ready. Alex took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. After decades of hiding, after years of pretending to be weak, humanity was about to show what they could really do. Fire. The Mark 7 plasma cannon discharged with a sound that vibrated through the entire ship. On the main screen, a beam of pure energy lanced out across space, covering the distance to the target in less than a second. When it hit the artificial asteroid, the result was spectacular. The 50-mile-wide rock simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next, it was an expanding cloud of superheated gas and tiny fragments. The weapon had not just destroyed the target, it had completely vaporized it. Jesus, whispered Tom Bradley. That was just one gun. We have 100 of them. Maya stared at her readings. The energy output was exactly what we calculated. The weapon performed perfectly. She looked up at Alex. Sir, I don't think there's anything in the galaxy that could survive a direct hit from our main guns. Alex nodded, but his expression remained serious. Remember, we built these ships to defend ourselves, not to conquer others. The aliens forced our hand by treating us like children for 2 centuries. Sam Rivers was already updating his intelligence reports. I'll make sure the aliens hear about a failed mining operation in Sector 7. They'll think we accidentally blew up one of our own mining ships. The deception would continue for a few more days. The galaxy would keep thinking that humans were harmless primitives who could barely tie their own shoes. But soon, very soon, the truth would come out. How long until the Zephyrian fleet reaches Earth? Alex asked. 4 days, sir, Sam replied. They're not even trying to hide their approach. They think this will be the easiest conquest in their history. Alex smiled grimly. Then we'd better make sure Terra's hammer and Liberty's edge are ready. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you underestimate humanity. General Rick Davis stood in the war room deep inside Terra's hammer, watching the displays that showed the Zephyrian fleet approaching Earth. 3,000 alien warships moved through space like a pack of hungry wolves, their crews confident that they would soon add another conquered world to their empire. They're right on schedule, reported Captain Nina Walsh from her position at the intelligence console. The Zephyrian commander is broadcasting victory messages to his fleet. He's telling them this will be over in a few hours. Rick nodded grimly. Admiral Krexaval, the Zephyrian fleet commander, had good reason to be confident. His ships outnumbered Earth's visible fleet by 60 to 1. His weapons were more advanced than anything humans were supposed to possess. By every calculation the aliens had made, this would be the easiest conquest in galactic history. They had no idea they were flying into the greatest trap ever set. Admiral Paul Jensen reports that all 3 ships are ready, announced Dr. Carl Brooks from his position at the weapons control station. New Horizon, Liberty's Edge, and Terra's Hammer are fully operational and standing by. Good. Rick looked around the room at his senior staff. These men and women had spent their entire careers preparing for this moment. Send the signal to all stations. Operation Daybreak is now active. Drop all stealth systems. Captain Nina Walsh's fingers moved across her console. Stealth systems offline in 3, 2, 1. Mark. In that instant, everything changed. The Wang. Three massive human battleships hidden for decades behind advanced camouflage technology suddenly appeared on every sensor screen in the solar system. New Horizon decloaked first, its enormous bulk materializing near Jupiter like a small planet that had not been there a moment before. Liberty's Edge followed, appearing between Mars and Earth with running lights that stretched for thousands of miles. Terra's Hammer, the largest of the three, decloaked directly in the path of the approaching Zephyrian fleet. The effect on the alien crews was immediate and devastating. "We're picking up emergency transmissions from the Zephyrian ships," Nina reported, barely able to keep the excitement out of her voice. "They're asking each other if they're seeing what they think they're seeing." On the main screen, Rick could watch the alien fleet's formation begin to break apart as individual ships slowed down or changed course. Captains who had been joking about easy victory a moment before were now screaming orders to their crews and demanding explanations that no one could give. "Broadcast on all frequencies," Rick ordered. "Let the whole galaxy hear this." Nina activated the communication systems that would carry Rick's words to every inhabited world in known space. In alien capitals across the galaxy, leaders who had been planning humanity's subjugation were about to get the shock of their lives. "This is General Rick Davis of the Terran Defense Force," Rick began, his voice calm and steady. "For 200 years, the people of Earth have lived peacefully among the worlds of this galaxy. We have traded fairly, kept our agreements, and asked for nothing more than the right to exist." On screens throughout the galaxy, alien leaders watched in stunned silence as the three human battleships maneuvered into attack formation. Each vessel was larger than their biggest space stations, bristling with weapons that defied every assumption they had made about human technology. "Today, the Zephyrian Empire has chosen to end that peace," Rick continued. "They believe that humanity is weak and defenseless. They are about to learn how wrong they are." Admiral Paul Jensen's voice came through the communication system. "All ships report ready for combat operations. The Zephyrian fleet has stopped advancing. They appear to be in some kind of formation confusion." That was putting it mildly. On the tactical display, Rick could see the alien ships scattered across space like leaves in a hurricane. Some were trying to retreat, others were attempting to form battle lines, and a few were just sitting motionless as their crews tried to process what they were seeing. "Dr. Brooks, I want a demonstration that the whole galaxy will remember," Rick said. "Target the empty space between the Zephyrian fleet and Earth. Show them what our weapons can do." Carl Brooks smiled as his hands moved over the weapons controls. "With pleasure, sir. Firing demonstration shot in 3, 2, 1. The main cannon of Terra's Hammer discharged a beam of energy that lit up the entire solar system. The weapon was not aimed at any ship or planet, but at a region of empty space that contained nothing but cosmic dust and a few small asteroids. When the beam passed through that region, it left behind a trail of superheated plasma that glowed like a miniature star. The message was clear. If that beam had been aimed at the Zephyrian fleet, there would be nothing left of them but scattered atoms. "Emergency session of the Galactic Council has been called," Nina reported. "Every major power is demanding answers. The Corvani Republic is mobilizing their fleets. So is the Stellar Consortium." Rick nodded. This was exactly what they had expected. The revelation of humanity's true strength would terrify every government in the galaxy. Species that had dismissed humans as primitive were now realizing that Earth possessed the most powerful military force anyone had ever seen. "Sir?" Admiral Jensen's voice came through again. "The Zephyrian fleet commander is requesting permission to speak with you directly. Put him through." The main screen flickered and showed the face of Admiral Krexval, the Zephyrian commander who had been so confident just minutes before. His scales had shifted to the pale yellow color that indicated extreme fear, and his 6 eyes were wide with shock. "General Davis," Krexval began, his voice shaking, "there has been a terrible misunderstanding. The Zephyrian Empire had no intention of threatening Earth. We were merely conducting navigation exercises in this region of space." Rick almost smiled. A few minutes ago, this same alien had been broadcasting orders to his fleet about how to divide up Earth's resources after their victory. Now he was pretending the whole thing had been a mistake. "Admiral Krexval," Rick replied calmly, Your ships are equipped with planetary bombardment weapons and troop transports. That seems like a lot of equipment for a navigation exercise. The alien commander's scales shifted to an even paler shade of yellow. That is, the Empire wishes to avoid any conflict with humanity. Perhaps we should withdraw to allow for diplomatic discussions. That would be wise, Rick agreed. But first I have a message for the Galactic Council and every government that might be watching this transmission. He paused, looking directly into the camera that would carry his words across the galaxy. Humanity does not seek conquest or domination. We want only to live in peace and defend ourselves from those who would harm us. But make no mistake, we are no longer the weak species you remember. Anyone who threatens Earth or her colonies will face the full might of the Terran Defense Force. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. The age of human weakness was over. Fleet Admiral Dan Cooper stood on the bridge of Terra's Hammer, watching the emergency broadcasts flooding in from across the galaxy. Every major alien government was in chaos. Leaders who had spent decades treating humans like children were now screaming orders to their military commanders and demanding explanations that no one could give. The Galactic Council has suspended all normal operations, reported Captain Ellen Price from her communication station. They're calling for an immediate emergency session. Every species is sending their top military advisors. Dan nodded, his eyes fixed on the tactical display showing alien fleet movements throughout the galaxy. Red dots were appearing everywhere as warships left their home bases and began moving toward human space. The revelation of Earth's true military power had terrified the galaxy, and terrified beings often made dangerous decisions. "How many ships are we tracking?" he asked. "Over 15,000 so far," replied Major Scott Turner from his position at the tactical console. "The Corvani Republic has mobilized their entire battle fleet. The Stellar Consortium is pulling ships from their border regions. Even the smaller powers are sending whatever they have." Dan felt a cold knot form in his stomach. This was exactly what they had feared might happen. The galaxy's reaction to learning about human strength was not relief or respect, but panic and aggression. Every alien government was convinced that humanity would use their new weapons to conquer the galaxy, so they were preparing to strike first. "Dr. Amy Clark, what are you hearing from the intelligence networks?" Dan asked. Amy looked up from her console, her face pale. "It's not good, sir. The alien governments are spreading rumors that humans have been planning this for centuries. They're saying we built these ships to invade and enslave the galaxy. Some of them are calling for a holy war against Earth." The irony was bitter. Humanity had built their secret fleet purely for defense, spending 2 centuries preparing to protect themselves from the galaxy's predators. Now those same predators were using humanity's defensive preparations as justification for an attack. "Sir," Ellen called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian Empire. It's marked as urgent diplomatic communication." "Put it through." The main screen flickered to show Emperor Zexthul himself, the supreme ruler of the Zephyrian Empire. His scales were the deep red color that indicated extreme anger, and his voice carried the authority of someone who had never been challenged. "General Davis," the Emperor began, not bothering with diplomatic pleasantries, "the Zephyrian Empire demands an immediate explanation for your deception. You have violated every treaty and agreement between our peoples by hiding these weapons." Dan stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Emperor Zexthul, Earth has violated no treaties. We have never agreed to limit our defensive capabilities. We have never promised to remain weak." Defensive capabilities. The Emperor's scales shifted to an even deeper red. "These are not defensive weapons. These are instruments of conquest, designed to threaten the established order of the galaxy." "The established order," Dan replied, "in which the strong prey upon the weak, and species like humanity are expected to submit to being conquered whenever a more powerful neighbor decides. They want our worlds." The Emperor's 6 eyes narrowed. "The Zephyrian Empire has been generous to your people. We have allowed you to exist in peace for 2 centuries. You have allowed us to exist because you thought we were too weak to be worth conquering?" Danny shot back. "The moment you decided we might be useful, you sent 3,000 warships to take our worlds by force." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Dan turned back to his officers, knowing that diplomatic solutions were becoming less likely by the hour. Major Turner, what's the status of our colonies? Not good, sir. The Corvani Republic has blockaded New Geneva. The Stellar Consortium is demanding that our people evacuate from Kepler Station. 3 of our smaller colonies are reporting alien ships in their systems. Dan felt his jaw tighten. This was exactly what they had prepared for, but it was still hard to watch. Human civilians who had lived peacefully on distant worlds for generations were now being threatened, simply because Earth had revealed its ability to defend itself. Captain Price, open a channel to all human colonies. Emergency frequency. Channel. Open, sir. This is Fleet Admiral Cooper to all human settlements. Effective immediately, all civilians are to evacuate to the nearest safe harbor. Military personnel are to implement Defense Protocol 7. We are not abandoning our colonies, but we need our people safe while we deal with this crisis. Defense Protocol 7 was the plan they had hoped never to use. It meant that human colonies would be temporarily evacuated while the 3 battlecruisers demonstrated to the galaxy that threatening human civilians was a very bad idea. Sir, Amy called out, I'm picking up communications between the Corvani and the Stellar Consortium. They're planning a joint attack. They want to hit all 3 of our ships simultaneously. How many ships are they planning to use? Everything they have. Combined fleet strength of over 20,000 vessels. Dan whistled softly. 20,000 ships was more than most species had ever seen in one place. It was a force capable of conquering entire sectors of the galaxy, and it was all aimed at humanity. Do they really think numbers alone will be enough? Major Turner asked. They don't understand what they're dealing with, Dan replied. They still think in terms of conventional warfare. They have no idea that one of our ships could handle their entire combined fleet. But even as he said it, Dan felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. In a few hours, he might have to order the destruction of 20,000 alien ships. The crews of those vessels were following orders from their governments, doing what they thought was necessary to protect their people. They had no way of knowing that they were flying into a battle they could not possibly win. Ellen, send a message to Earth. Tell them we need President Hayes to address the galaxy. If we're going to avoid a massacre, we need to convince them that humanity is not their enemy. Yes, sir. Dan looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there thousands of alien ships were preparing for what they thought would be the battle to save the galaxy from human conquest. Instead, it would be the battle that taught the galaxy what happened when you threatened the people of Earth. The next few hours would determine whether humanity's revelation led to a new age of peace or the largest space battle in galactic history. President Laura Hayes stood before the cameras in the emergency broadcast center aboard New Horizon, knowing that her next words would be heard on every inhabited world in the galaxy. Behind her, through the massive viewports, the combined alien fleet could be seen approaching like a cloud of angry insects. 23,000 ships from dozens of different species, all united by their fear of humanity's newfound power. People of the galaxy, Laura began, her voice steady despite the enormity of the moment. I am Laura Hayes, President of Earth and representative of all human colonies. I speak to you now not as a conqueror, but as someone who hopes we can avoid the tragedy that approaches. On the bridge of Terra's Hammer, Admiral Steve Martin watched the tactical displays with growing concern. The alien fleet was massive beyond anything he had ever imagined fighting. Even with humanity's technological advantages, the coming battle would be remembered for centuries. They're spreading out into attack formation, reported Commander Julie Adams from her position at the sensor console. It looks like they plan to hit us from all directions at once. Steve nodded grimly. It was a smart strategy, or would have been against any normal opponent. The aliens were trying to overwhelm the 3 human ships with sheer numbers, attacking from so many angles that the defenders could not possibly respond to every threat. They had no idea that each human battlecruiser could engage thousands of targets simultaneously. Dr. Frank Miller, are the new defense systems online? Steve asked. All systems are green, Frank replied from his engineering station. The automated defense grids are tracking every ship in their fleet. We could destroy them all in under 10 minutes if we wanted to. But Steve did not want to. Despite everything that had happened, despite the fear and anger that had driven the galaxy to this point, he still hoped they could find a peaceful solution. The crews of those alien ships were not evil beings. They were scared people following orders from leaders who thought they were protecting their worlds from a human invasion that would never come. President Hayes continued her broadcast, her words reaching command centers throughout the approaching fleet. The ships you see before you were built for one purpose: to defend humanity from those who would destroy us. For 200 years we have watched as powerful species conquered the weak. We saw what happened to the Altarians, the Vegan Republic, the Centauri Alliance, all destroyed by empires that decided they wanted their worlds. On the Corvani flagship, Admiral Texeron listened to the human president's words with growing unease. The Altarians had been a peaceful people, much like the humans had appeared to be. The Corvani Republic had absorbed their worlds after a brief war, claiming it was for the greater good of galactic stability. The Vegans and Centaurians had met similar fates at the hands of other powers. "She speaks the truth about those conquests," murmured his aide, a young officer who had studied galactic history. Silence, Texeron snapped, but he could not shake the uncomfortable feeling that the human leader's words carried. "Continue the attack approach." Laura Hayes seemed to be speaking directly to commanders like him when she continued, "We did not build these ships to conquer your worlds. We built them so that what happened to the Altarians would never happen to us. We wanted only to be left in peace." "President Hayes," came Admiral Martin's voice over the communication system, "the alien fleet will be in weapons range in 5 minutes. We need to know your orders." Laura closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of billions of lives resting on her decision. When she opened them again, her resolve was clear. "Continue the broadcast. Let me finish speaking to them." She turned back to the camera, knowing that her next words might prevent or start the largest space battle in history. "Commanders of the approaching fleets, I know you believe you are protecting your people from human aggression. I know your leaders have told you that we plan to conquer the galaxy. But look at our actions, not our capabilities. On screens throughout the alien fleet, tactical officers were analyzing the human ships and reporting their findings to increasingly nervous commanders. The 3 human vessels were not behaving like ships preparing for conquest. They were not moving to attack positions or targeting alien worlds. They were simply standing in space, waiting. In 200 years of contact with your civilizations," Laura continued, "humanity has never started a war. We have never conquered a world that was not ours. We have never enslaved another species or demanded tribute from weaker peoples. We have done only what we needed to do to survive in a galaxy where the strong prey upon the weak." Commander Julie Adams looked up from her console. "Sir, I'm detecting communication between the alien ships. Some of their commanders are questioning their orders." Admiral Martin felt a spark of hope. "What are they saying?" "The Helix Federation ships are slowing down. So are some of the smaller powers. It looks like President Hayes' words are having an effect." But not all of the alien commanders were having second thoughts. The Zephyrian and Corvani fleets continued their approach, their weapons charging for battle. Emperor Zexthol and the Corvani leadership had committed too much to back down now. 2 minutes to weapons range, reported Dr. Miller. Laura Hayes made her final appeal. "Today you have a choice. You can continue this attack and learn why humanity spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. Or you can choose a different path. You can choose to build a galaxy where strength is used to protect the weak, not destroy them." On the Helix Federation flagship, Admiral Colwen made his decision. "All ships, stand down, reduce speed, and hold position." His crew looked at him in surprise, but they followed orders. The Helix ships began to fall back from the main attack formation. The Antaran Collective followed suit, then the Border Worlds Alliance. One by one, the smaller powers began to withdraw from the attack, leaving only the major empires still advancing. 15,000 ships have withdrawn, Julie reported. But the Zephyrians and Corvani are still coming. 8,000 ships still in attack formation. Admiral Martin sighed. Some beings, it seemed, would only learn through experience. All stations prepare for combat. Target their weapons and engines only. We're not here to commit genocide. The Battle of Seoul began not with a massive exchange of fire, but with a demonstration that redefined what was possible in space warfare. The 3 human ships opened fire simultaneously, their weapons reaching across hundreds of thousands of miles to touch the alien vessels with surgical precision. Zephyrian warships found their weapon systems disabled by beams of energy that passed through their shields, as if they were not there. Corvani battlecruisers discovered that their engines had been shut down by weapons that could target individual components from impossible distances. In less than 5 minutes, 8,000 alien warships had been rendered helpless without a single crew member being killed. "This is Admiral Martin to the combined fleet," Steve broadcast. "Your ships are disabled, but your crews are safe. We could have destroyed you all, but that was never our intention. Send rescue ships for your people. This battle is over." In the stunned silence that followed, President Hayes delivered her final message to the galaxy. "This is the new order. Humanity will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will stand against those who prey upon the weak. The age of conquest is ending, and the age of protection has begun." Commander Julie Adams looked up from her console with wonder in her voice. "Sir, we're receiving surrender messages from across the galaxy. The Zephyrian Empire is offering to negotiate. So is the Corvani Republic. Even the Stellar Consortium is asking for talks." Admiral Martin smiled as he looked out at the disabled alien ships. "Send word to all human colonies they can return home. The galaxy has learned that threatening humanity's people is not a wise decision." In the months that followed, the galaxy would indeed change. The 3 human battlecruisers became symbols of protection rather than conquest, patrolling space lanes to ensure that no species could prey upon another. And in the shipyards beyond Neptune, construction began on humanity's 4th planet-sized vessel, ensuring that the peace would endure. The galaxy had learned what humans could do when they stopped pretending to be weak. Now it would learn what they could accomplish when they used their strength to build instead of destroy.